Bigger bang, chicken wang, PGK, you can say, Lil Pump, Lil Xan, imitate Lil Wayne.
That's what's wrong right now. Everybody trying to rap the same style with the, I don't know who created it, if it was Future or Migos, but all them sound the same. I said, me in the studio one night trying to do that. I'm like, man, cut this shit off.
Mumble rap.
I mean, in rock.
Take the out of your mouth and speak clearly, young man. This mumble, speak clearly. Let me hear what the you say.
Island boy, and I've been trying to make. Oh, I'm an island boy. I'm just island boy. I'm just island boy.
I'm speechless. Two goofballs in the pool.
You know why I'm not speechless?
Why?
Because I'm an island.
Mumble rap didn't just creep into the culture quietly. It crashed in like a wild storm, shaking the foundations of hip-hop and leaving everyone arguing about what the genre was even supposed to mean anymore. Sure, some of these artists can craft beats that slap, beats that get stuck in your head whether you like it or not. But let's be real, that alone doesn't make them true rappers. To many, it feels lazy. To others, it feels like a downgrade, a watered-down version of the grind and skill that hip-hop was built on. And the more people listened, the more they questioned, that is this evolution or is it erosion? The older generation didn't hesitate to weigh in. The OGs of the game, the very architects of hip-hop, weren't biting their tongues. And why should they? When you dedicate your life to building a culture on bars, storytelling, wordplay, and lyrical warfare, only to see it suddenly reduced to slurred hooks and half-baked ad-libs, of course you're gonna have something to say. Especially when new school rappers like Rich the Kid start talking reckless, claiming the legends are intimidated by them. Intimidated. That's when you know the culture is being twisted. It's one thing to innovate, it's another thing to disrespect the pillars holding the whole house up. Legends like Snoop Dogg and plenty more weren't about to let this slide. When the pioneers of hip-hop see a new wave pulling through, they expect it to come with real skill and real grind. And if you're not bringing raw heat, trust me, they'll call you out without hesitation, starting with Snoop himself. Now, Snoop is a man who's seen everything in the industry. He's adapted through eras, crossed over genres, and maintained his legendary status without ever losing credibility. But mumble rap? Nah, that's one thing he's never shown patience for. He's blasted it repeatedly, pointing out its shallow, repetitive vibes and lack of substance. And one particular moment put that on full display. When Snoop teamed up with Kevin Hart to react to some of 2021's wildest TikTok clips, the stage was already set for comedy. But then one video popped up, the Island Boys. Two twin brothers, hair sticking out in every direction, half singing, half mumbling from a swimming pool. It wasn't rap, it wasn't singing, it was something in between, and not in a good way.
Full gazing, I'm like, pool where I'm staying. I'm an island boy, put my vest on, yeah, like a wagwan man, tryna make it to the top. I'ma get key white grind, you're gonna keep that gun. I'll be just staring at the sun, I'm just full gazing. I'm like, pool where I'm staying. I'm an island boy, put my vest on, yeah, like a wagwan man, tryna make it to the top. I'm an island boy, I've been trying to make it. I ain't seen it with a gang.
Gang, there they got to use that.
The second that clip ended, Snoop and Kevin went in. They clowned those boys so hard, laughing like they couldn't believe what they just witnessed. Kevin's jokes had Snoop crying with laughter, and the two of them turned that whole segment into viral comedy gold. But while the fans ate it up, the Island Boys, especially Fly, weren't laughing. Fly caught wind of the roast and instantly snapped back, aiming all his heat directly at Snoop. His words weren't playful, they were heated. If he were to say that to me in real life, on sight, I would fade him, I'd beat him, I swear to God, on everything in my life. Fly doubled down, swearing again. If I ever see him, it's on sight. Big talk, but bold words don't mean much when you're stepping to a certified legend. Snoop, a veteran with decades in the game, didn't even flinch. He wasn't rattled, he wasn't pressed, he flipped it into comedy. Jumping on Instagram, Snoop dropped a playful jab of his own. I don't want no smoke with them. That's all it took. No anger, no back and forth threats, just comedy that instantly made it clear he wasn't taking the Island Boys seriously, and fans were quick to remind Fly that trying to square up with Snoop Dogg wasn't just a losing battle. It was dangerous territory they had no business stepping into. It didn't take long for the Island Boys to realize they were out of their league. Fly eventually backed down, dropping an apology for all that tough talk. because deep down, even he knew when you aim at someone like Snoop, the bullets bounce back every time. But Snoop wasn't the only one calling out mumble rap. Eminem, a completely different beast, has been one of the loudest and most relentless voices against it. M has never sugarcoated how he feels about mumble rap. He doesn't just dislike it, he despises it. To say he's not a fan would be the understatement of the century. He made his position crystal clear on his 2018 album Kamikaze. That project wasn't just a collection of tracks, it was a full-blown lyrical assault. He swung at mumble rappers left and right, dismantling the entire wave bar for bar. He took aim at Lil Yachty, mocked Migos by twisting their flow from Bad and Bougie, and even flipped Lil Pump's whole Gucci Gang cadence just to show how ridiculous it sounded. Eminem wasn't just criticizing, he was taking a scalpel to the movement, cutting it apart and exposing what he saw as hollow music. Of course, the younger rappers weren't going to sit there quietly. Lil Pump, for example, jumped online, talking reckless. He claimed nobody listens to Eminem anymore. Bold words, sure, but completely out of touch.
I can feel it, you know what I'm saying? You can feel it. Some other artists and artists that's been in the game, you know what I'm saying? They feel intimidated by younger artists coming in the game, taking.
Because while Pump had a handful of viral tracks, Eminem's fan base has been global and loyal for decades. The streaming numbers told the story. Eminem wasn't fading. Pump was just too naive to realize the difference between viral buzz and generational impact. And M, he wasn't about to waste a bunch of energy arguing. He clapped back in the slickest way possible, quoting his own lyrics from Book of Rhymes on Twitter. It was his way of saying, I don't need to explain myself. My bars already said it. It was classic Eminem, sharp, controlled, and devastating without even raising his voice. The funniest part of all, if you ask me, by early 2021, Lil Pump suddenly caught a case of selective amnesia. When fans brought up the beef, he acted like he couldn't even remember what happened. But the internet never forgets, and Pump's weak backtracking only made him look sillier. Still, the most explosive clash between Eminem and the so-called new wave wasn't with Pump or Yachty, it was with Machine Gun Kelly. That beef shook the entire culture. It all started back in 2012 when MGK tweeted that Eminem's daughter Haley was hot. Anybody who knows M knows one thing, Haley is off limits, period. That tweet crossed a line. Even though MGK tried to brush it off later, the damage was done. And Marshall doesn't forget disrespect. Things simmered for years until MGK slipped in a reference to M on Tech N9's song No Reason. That was the spark that lit the fire. Eminem clapped back with a vicious diss track that not only addressed MGK's comment about Haley, but tore into his entire career. It was surgical, it was brutal, and it reminded everyone why Eminem is considered one of the deadliest battle rappers alive. To MGK's credit, he didn't fold. He came back with Rap Devil, a fiery diss that had the whole industry buzzing. MGK went at Eminem's legacy, claimed he was out of touch, said his last 4 albums were trash, and even threw dirt by mentioning Kim, M's ex-wife. It was audacious, shocking, and for a moment, people thought MGK might have scored a point, but M wasn't about to let that stand. He fired back with Kill Shot, a diss that systematically dismantled Rap Devil line by line. He clowned MGK's career, ripped apart his arguments, and reminded the world of the skill gap between them. Later, Eminem broke it all down in interviews, making it clear he had zero regrets about putting MGK in his place. And what happened after? MGK pivoted to rock music. To fans, it looked like a retreat, a move that said loud and clear the rap beef was over and MGK didn't want that smoke anymore. But Eminem wasn't the only legend who had issues with mumble rap disrespect. Lil Xan, the rapper behind Betrayed, managed to spark one of the ugliest controversies when he dared to call Tupac's music boring in an interview. Not only that, he rated Pac a 2 out of 10 on his so-called clout meter. For context, clout is basically internet credibility, a measure of how influential or cool someone is online. But calling Tupac boring, that wasn't just reckless, it was pure disrespect. Pac isn't just a rapper, he's a poet. He's a revolutionary. Universities literally study his lyrics. So when Xan said that, the backlash was instant and brutal. Twitter exploded. Fans from every generation jumped in to roast him. One user summed it up perfectly. People shouldn't be shocked about Lil Xan disrespecting Tupac. You all let these little culture vultures get too comfortable. Now they think they can say whatever they want. Another shot hit even harder. This coming from a rapper named after a drug. Please. Tupac was a poet. Universities study his boring raps. That's something you'll never touch or understand. By then it was clear Zan had crossed a line he couldn't uncross. He wasn't just beefing with fans, he was playing with hip-hop history. And when you disrespect the very icons who paved the way for the genre you're trying to eat off of, the culture will make sure you pay the price. Zan tried to save face by performing Pac's California Love at one of his shows, hoping to smooth things over. But the crowd wasn't buying it. The damage was done. The backlash kept piling up. Then things escalated when Zan nearly got caught up in a shootout at a Los Angeles gas station. He was with his girlfriend, Annie Smith, when someone spotted him and brought up those Tupac comments. Tension sparked instantly. Zan stayed quiet in the moment, but later he jumped on Instagram claiming he had to pull a gun in self-defense. The media is gonna twist what happened, he said. I was about to be attacked and had to defend myself. Forget all you old heads still talking about that Tupac stuff. Live your own life and stop picking on a kid. But a week later, Zan completely flipped the script. In another interview, he swore he never dissed Tupac. He said the clip was edited, twisted to make him look like he hated old school hip hop. But the flip-flopping only made him look worse.
Nothing wrong against Tupac. I never dissed him because they edited the clip to make it look like I hate all old school hip hop.
Fans weren't fooled. By then, his reputation as one of the most disrespectful newcomers in the game was locked in. And that's the pattern. Mumble rap may have brought new energy, new sounds, and a new generation of listeners, but it also brought with it a wave of reckless disrespect and clout-chasing antics. And every time the OGs respond, whether it's Snoop with comedy or Eminem with nuclear bars, it reminds the world exactly what hip-hop was built on. Skill, respect, and a grind you can't fake. And then came XXXXTentacion, who never shied away from stirring up controversy whenever he had it. You can't compare yourself to Pac unless you were living through 1996 and everything that came with it. That was the deeper issue. The disrespect wasn't just about a line in an interview. It was about dismissing a history that shaped hip-hop into what it was. For older heads, Tupac symbolized pain, survival, and rebellion in a world that was stacked against young black men. He represented community, struggle, and storytelling that carried the weight of real lives. To compare yourself to that legacy without putting in the decades of work or living through those battles felt like arrogance of the highest order. The backlash was so intense that for weeks, fans and blogs couldn't stop bringing it up. And whether X meant it as pure bravado or just another attempt to spark conversation, it pushed the divide between old school and new school hip-hop even deeper. Some people started to believe that younger rappers were deliberately tossing out wild statements just to get attention, clout, and headlines instead of letting their music speak for itself. One fan even went as far as calling X the weakest rapper in the game today, pointing out that anyone who needed to tear down Tupac to boost themselves probably didn't have the music to back it up, and X wasn't the only one crossing lines. Around the same time, Lil Yachty was building a reputation for not caring at all about the roots of hip-hop. If XXXTentacion lit sparks, Yachty poured gasoline. He went on record openly admitting he didn't care about old school rappers and wasn't afraid to say it out loud. When asked about legends, Yachty casually dropped the bomb that he thought Biggie was overrated. For die-hard hip-hop fans, that was practically a sin, but it didn't stop there. Yachty also admitted he wasn't even familiar with Pac or Biggie's catalogs. He couldn't name 5 songs from either of them if his life depended on it. His excuse? He claimed he was too busy making his own music, focused on his own path, and didn't see learning hip-hop history as a priority. His attitude was basically, if I can do it my way, get rich, and make waves with my own style, why should I care about what came before? For him, success in the present was all that mattered, and when fans tried to hold him accountable, Yachty just shrugged it off like it was nothing. To him, the criticism didn't mean much because the checks kept clearing. But for people who had grown up memorizing every lyric from Biggie and Pac, who saw their music as gospel, Yachty's words weren't just careless, they felt like a slap in the face. Hip-hop had always been about respecting those who paved the way, and when new artists dismissed that history, it didn't just show arrogance, it showed ignorance. But when it comes to outright disrespect, Kodak Black might just take the crown. If X was reckless and Yachty was careless, Kodak was flat out provocative. At first, he made a few slick comments that seemed harmless enough, but then he doubled down hard during an Instagram live session. That's when he outright claimed he was better than both Tupac and Biggie, and then twisted the knife deeper by saying the only reason they were seen as legends was because they were dead. That statement spread like wildfire across every corner of the internet. Fans were furious. Older rappers spoke up. Commentators called it one of the most tone-deaf takes in hip-hop history. To suggest that Pac and Biggie were only legends because of their deaths wasn't just wrong, it erased the art, the struggle, and the massive influence they had while they were alive. And Kodak wasn't done stirring the pot. He took his energy to Lil Wayne too. He called Wayne washed up, irrelevant, and past his prime. Now, if there's one thing everyone knows, it's that Lil Wayne is still one of the most respected rappers alive, a man who influenced an entire generation. Kodak's words weren't just shad, they were a declaration of war. Wayne himself decided not to engage, but his daughter, Regina Carter, wasn't staying quiet. She clapped back immediately, saying Kodak's new music sounded like a weak imitation of her father's style. That one line shut down a lot of Kodak's noise, because at the end of the day, his catalog couldn't stand next to Wayne's, and Kodak wasn't the only rising star learning lessons the hard way. Take Ola Runt, an Atlanta rapper who seemed to be on the fast track to success after catching the eye of Gucci Mane. Gucci is a legend in Atlanta, famous for both his hits and his no-nonsense attitude. Back in 2019, Gucci signed Ola and even jumped on a few tracks to help put him on the map.
Eminem, you is lame as hell. Ain't nobody listening to your old you lame.
Everything seemed promising until Ola let his ego get in the way. During an Instagram live session, the two were talking about finishing up a song. Gucci casually mentioned he'd get to it later that night. Instead of keeping cool and respecting the process, Ola pressed Gucci live in front of everyone, basically demanding he hurry up. That was the wrong move. Gucci being Gucci, he didn't let it slide. Right then and there, he checked Ola, making it clear that kind of disrespect wasn't going to fly. Ola should have backed off, but he didn't. He doubled down, pushing the same attitude. Gucci had enough and cut ties completely, dropping him from the label. Since then, Ola's career has barely moved. The lesson was simple. When someone like Gucci Mane puts you on, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Going against Gucci wasn't just a bad look, it was career suicide. And that wasn't even the first time Gucci had to check someone. Years earlier, at a radio station meet and greet, Gucci was just chilling, signing autographs, taking pictures, and showing love to fans. Out of nowhere, a random guy barged in and started freestyling at the top of his lungs, desperate for attention. Wrong place, wrong time. Gucci shut it down immediately, telling the guy nobody wanted to hear his raps. The dude looked crushed, but it was a tough reminder that timing matters. In this game, reading the room can be the difference between getting respect and getting clowned. Of course, Gucci's biggest beef wasn't with up-and-comers, it was with another heavyweight, Jeezy. Back in 2005, the two were locked in one of the ugliest feuds in hip-hop history. It all started when Jeezy dropped a track offering a $10,000 bounty on Gucci's famous ice cream cone chain. That bounty set off chaos. Not long after, 5 men showed up at Gucci's place, trying to snatch it. Things got violent fast. Gucci fought back, grabbed his gun, and in the struggle, fired a shot that killed one of the attackers, Pookie Lock. Days later, Pookie's body was found behind a middle school. Gucci turned himself in, claiming self-defense, and the courts agreed. He walked free, but Gucci wasn't about to let the incident fade quietly. He came back with a diss track aimed at Jeezy and Pookie, making it clear he wasn't scared and wasn't backing down. That beef simmered for years, defining a whole era of Atlanta rap. Then, in 2020, it reignited in one of the most shocking ways possible. Gucci and Jeezy faced off in a versus battle, streaming live to millions around the world. Everyone expected tension, but nobody expected Gucci to go as hard as he did. Midway through the battle, Gucci performed Truth, his infamous diss track that directly called out the Pookie Lock incident. And just to twist the knife, he followed up by saying, "Smoking on Pookie Lock tonight," right there on stage. The crowd went silent. The tension was so thick you could feel it through the screen. Jeezy tried to keep calm, suggesting it was time to move past all that since 15 years had gone by. But Gucci wasn't having it. He looked Jeezy in the eye and said straight up that if he couldn't perform Truth, There was no point in doing versus at all. For millions watching, it was one of the rawest moments in live hip-hop history, but Gucci wasn't the only veteran showing he wasn't to be played with. 50 Cent had built his entire career on being confrontational, and he never lost that edge. Trav, a former G-Unit member, learned that the hard way during a live show with Meek Mill. Out of nowhere, 50 turned, said something sharp, and shoved Trav in front of the entire crowd. The energy in the room shifted instantly. Meek stepped in, reminding everyone that he and Trav were like family, trying to keep things from boiling over. Luckily, it didn't escalate further, but the message was clear. 50 wasn't someone you crossed. That same energy showed up again one night when 50 was out at dinner with Nicki Nicole. A young rapper ran up on him, furious that 50 wouldn't check out his music. The guy squared up, asking if 50 was going to hit him, accusing him of being unfair. His friend filmed the whole thing, clearly hoping to go viral. 50 shut it down with ease, brushing the guy off and letting him know aggressive stunts weren't the way to get noticed. No punches were thrown, but the clip spread everywhere. The rapper tried to milk the moment online, posting challenges to fight 50 and shamelessly promoting his music, but fans saw it for what it was, a desperate stunt. And then there was Offset.
Look at my jellies. Look at my jellies. That's a... Hit me, go ahead. I can fight. I don't care. That's a tape, man. Nah, I don't care about the camera.
Who ended up in a surprising backstage moment with none other than Jay-Z. Most people today see Jay as the billionaire mogul, the business mastermind, and Beyonce's husband. But behind the polished image, he's still got the same edge he carried from the streets of Brooklyn. In 2018, a video surfaced showing Jay pressing Offset backstage while Beyonce stood in the background watching it all go down. There was no audio, but the body language said everything. Jay was in Offset's face, and Offset looked like he knew he needed to respect the situation. Rumors swirled that it was all about a track Offset was planning with Cardi B called She's My Beyonce. Whether that was true or not, neither Jay nor Offset ever spoke publicly about it, but the silence only fueled speculation. What was clear, though, was that Offset came out of that moment still respecting Jay, no grudges, no drama. That video only reinforced what everybody already knew. Jay-Z is untouchable. Even after decades in the game, he's still the kind of figure you don't cross, no matter how successful you are. Hip-hop has always been a mix of respect, ego, and conflict. From new rappers throwing shade at legends to veterans proving they still hold the crown, the drama is never ending. And for fans, it's both a reminder and a warning. The culture doesn't forget. Words carry weight, and disrespect, whether intentional or not, always comes back around.